In 1943, during the dark night of the Nazi occupation, at Novogródek, a town situated in what was formerly the northeastern section of Poland, 12 sisters of the Congregation of the Sisters of the Holy Family of Nazareth shared the anxieties and fears of their neighbors. Unconcerned about their own safety, they sympathized with those who were arrested and with those who were detained in concentration camps or doomed to cruel execution. The sisters were especially compassionate toward orphaned families in their tragic fate and destitution. In July 1943, new arrests followed one upon another. Fathers and sons were put into prison, where they awaited trials and final sentencings. Desolate wives, mothers, and children sobbed out their hearts in hopeless grief and utter terror. The sisters yearned to relieve the distress of the unfortunate. Their hearts were aflame with the charity of Christ, and they found an opportunity to give witness to their love for their neighbor. Sister Mary Stella, the superior of the sisters in Novogródek, expressed the desire of the sisters in this prayer. O God, if sacrifice of life is needed, accept it from us who are free from family obligations. Spare those who have wives and children. Suddenly, without cause or warning, on July 31st, 1943, 11 of the sisters were imprisoned. One night, a night that was shrouded in mystery, a night that only God knew of the facts, the sisters were packed into a van and driven beyond the limits of the town. During the early hours of the morning of August 1st, 1943, the 11 sisters were shot and buried in a common grave. A member of the Nazi detachment who had been present at the execution later exclaimed, "How those sisters went to their execution, how they went to their death." The mystery of the offering, whose significance and greatness was shown for the first time to the world on Golgotha, was most likely hidden in this bewilderment. Meanwhile, a tide of joy swept through the town when the most recently imprisoned men were not killed. Some of the men were released. Others were sent to Germany for work. Father Alexander Zienkiewicz, the rector of the Fara and sisters' chaplain, was also cognizant of the fact that his life was spared because of the offering of the sisters. One of the 12 sisters, Sister Małgorzata, who worked at the hospital and was not arrested or killed, later found the grave of the sisters. On March 19, 1945, the bodies of the 11 sisters were exhumed. During a solemn funeral service, the people of Novogródek, filled with sentiments of gratitude, paid honor to the sisters who had been their deliverers. The funeral liturgy was followed by burial in the cemetery adjoining the local church. The 11 blessed martyrs of Novogródek, together with Sister Małgorzata, were unique individuals. Each one possessed a distinct personality, a different level of sensitivity, and an unrepeatable level of spiritual beauty. As sisters of the Holy Family of Nazareth, they constituted a holy family to a heroic degree. Having passed through the dark valley of evil, perpetuated in the name of Nazi and Stalinist ideology, these sisters continue to light up the world today as eternal flames of love. Their colorful backgrounds are now presented to us as a multi-hued bouquet gathered from the picturesque meadows of Novogródek. Sister Canizia, Eugenia Mackiewicz, entered the congregation at age 30. She was born on September 27, 1903, and lived in the Suwałki region of Poland, where her father was an officer in the Imperial Tsarist army. As a result of his official duties away from home, her baptism was delayed until April 11, 1904. She had 4 brothers and 1 sister, Hedwig. Every morning at 6 a.m., her grandfather would gather the children to pray the traditional Godzinki. In 1913, she attended Russian Public High School, and in 1922, completed the course of study in a Polish public high school in Suwałki. When Eugenia was 15 years old, her mother died. One brother, Leopold, became a priest and died in 1933 of meningitis. By 1927, she completed her teacher training and eventually became a teacher and school director. Becoming a postulant in Warsaw on August 27, 1933, she entered the congregation as a choir sister. A year later, given the name Canizia, she began her novitiate in Albano, Italy. Upon returning to Poland, she was eventually assigned to the school in Nowogródek in 1938. Throughout her life, she suffered severe attacks as a result of a liver condition. Though she was known as Sister Discipline, she was loved and respected by her students. As a teacher in lay clothes, she was made to accompany her students in Bolshevik marches. When discovered to be a religious, she fled to Grodno and eventually returned to Nowogródek. There she prepared 3 groups of children for First Holy Communion. A skilled educator, she taught catechism, Polish language, arithmetic, and handcrafts including embroidery and mending. Her life can best be summarized by recalling her last recorded words before the sisters left for the commissariat. "We must go forward until the end." Sister Borromea, Veronica Narmontowicz, entered the congregation at age 20. She was born on December 18, 1916, and lived near Grodno. Though her family possessed neither property nor education, they considered themselves to be noble yeomen. She entered the novitiate in Grodno, and after professing her first vows, was assigned to Nowogródek. Delicate but obstinate in character, she found it difficult to be a lay sister. Shy and refined, she was known to have too high an opinion of herself. A Russian man once proposed marriage to her and tried to persuade her to join him in the interior of Russia. This caused some consternation among the sisters. Because of her own personal struggle, Sister was sent away twice during the occupation. However, she pleaded to return, and permission was granted. She constantly thanked her superior for helping her save her treasured vocation. From that point onward, she served God ever more zealously until the day of her martyrdom. Sister Kanuta, Josephine Hrobot, entered the congregation at age 26. She was born on May 22, 1896. Her father was a farmer and carpenter, and she had no formal schooling opportunities at all. Josephine was engaged to be married, and her banns of marriage had already been twice announced in the local parish. However, she had a disturbing dream about a red dress and spoke of it to her confessor. Under his advisement, she made a pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady in Częstochowa. It was here that she encountered the sisters, and with the encouragement of her mother, made the decision to enter the community. Despite her severe health problems, she later served as a portress, cook, and shoemaker. Sister Kanuta was known to be a great chef and could prepare delicious meals. When war broke out, she was often found in chapel at midnight, praying in the form of a cross. On March 19, 1945, as the bodies of the 11 martyrs were being exhumed, she was found huddled as if in a kneeling position. Her habit was soaked with her own blood, thus fulfilling her dream of the red dress. Sister Daniela, Eleanor Angela Jóźwik, entered the congregation at age 25. Born January 25, 1895, she also lived under Russian domination. She had no formal schooling and only attended evening classes for 3 months. Her postulancy in Grodno lasted for 1.5 years. Yet, unlike the majority of her fellow novices, her novitiate was only 19 months. Assigned to college as portress, she was in charge of guests and maintained order and neatness. Under her supervision, all were assured of adequate supplies. Sister Daniela enjoyed working with little children. When parents were late, she entertained the youngsters in her charge by telling stories. She was known as the guardian angel of the children of Novogrudek. Sister Imelda, Hedwig Caroline Zach, entered the congregation at age 19. Born December 29, 1892, in Oświęcim, the Austrian sector at that time, she was schooled only until grade 6. Her father was an administrator and therefore the family lived reasonably well. She was skilled as a seamstress and entered the novitiate in Albano, Italy, together with Sister Stella. Sister Imelda was known to be flighty and could often laugh at herself. Her sisters recall an incident where the superior of the house had requested that kanapki be brought to the parlor. Sister Imelda misunderstood the term and was found dragging a sofa into the room. Her duties included the care of the altar boys, the bell tower, and the sacristy. In defiance of the Russians, she wore her habit during the occupation. When questioned, she simply stated, "I have nothing to lose." Sister Felicita, Pauline Borovic, entered the congregation at age 27. She was born on August 30th, 1905, and 9 days later her mother died. As a result, she and her 2 brothers were reared by family members. Pauline never attended school and had a serious heart condition, yet she was a hard worker. She became a member of the Third Order of St. Francis and the Rosary Society. Like many of her fellow sisters at that time, Sister Felicita made her novitiate in Grodno. She would later be assigned to clean the local schools in Novogrudek under Russian occupation. As a result of her sacrifice, she did not live to pronounce perpetual vows. Sister Gvidona, Helen Cherpka, entered the congregation at age 27. She was born on April 11, 1900, and lived under Prussian and German domination. Educated in German schools, she mastered the native language of her instructors. Years later, her fluency would enable her to speak on behalf of the sisters during the Nazi interrogation. In order to support her local community in Novogrudek, she sold her farm produce to the people of the village. A contemporary of Sister Faustina Kowalska, she chose the mercy of God as her mystery at final profession. Always thoughtful of others, she once planned to paint the school on her own. Much to her surprise, when she arrived, the sisters were already there, busy at work. Sister Heliodora, Leokadia Matuszewska, entered the congregation at age 27. She was born on February 8, 1906, and attended German elementary school from 1912 through 1919. Prior to entering the novitiate in Grodno, she worked in a factory and later took great pains to rid herself of certain traits acquired during her employment. After novitiate, she was assigned to Novogrudek. Sister Heliodora got along well with children who loved to walk under the folds of her mantle. As the school portress, she was admired by parents who loved and respected her. Tall, portly, and courageous and cheerful, She maintained a commanding presence under the Russians. Never known to waste time, she could be seen knitting on her way to school. In order for the sisters to be permitted to remain in the school, she was required to become a house servant to the Russian director. During this time, she converted the director and his wife, was accompanied to church by his son, and provided religious instruction. The director boasted of the fact that under her influence, there was no meat served in his house on Fridays. As was the custom among Polish families, Sister Heliodora arranged for the traditional Święconka on Holy Saturday. When the Germans took over, the director was known to have left family valuables with her. Like Sister Felicita, she also did not live to profess perpetual vows. Sister Sergia, Julia Rapier, entered the congregation at age 22. She was born on August 18, 1900, and grew up under Russian domination. Her parents did not permit formal schooling for fear of Russian influence. Therefore, she possessed only basic reading and writing skills. Sister Sergia began her novitiate in Grodno on February 29, 1924. She was sent to the United States on August 4, 1925, to continue her novitiate in Des Plaines, Illinois. Having poor communication skills, she had difficulty finding companions to engage in conversation. In August of 1926, she was assigned to the convent of St. Anthony in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She professed her final vows on April 16, 1932, in Philadelphia, and returned to Poland on February 2, 1933. There she was assigned to Novogródek. Sister Sergia was known to have a great love for the Blessed Mother. Sister Stella, Adele Marjasevich, entered the congregation at age 22. She was born on December 14, 1888, to a fairly affluent family. She lived in the Russian sector of Poland and therefore spoke Russian. She had a serious heart condition, yet entered the novitiate in Albano, Italy. Mother Loretta once stated, "The congregation doesn't need only healthy sisters." As the superior of the local community of Novogródek, she was singled out to be executed first by the Nazis. Sister Raymond, Anna Kukolovich, entered the congregation at age 18. Born August 24, 1892, she lived under Russian domination. Her parents only allowed her to attend school for a few months. Sister Raymond, who suffered from severe arthritis, entered the novitiate in Grodno. She would later be assigned to take care of the dining room and maintain the convent and farm. Those who observed her working in the sewing room commented that she was as industrious as an ant. Sister Małgorzata, Ludwika Banash, entered the congregation at age 21. She was born on April 10, 1896, and lived in Lechny Dolny near Wadowice. At 20 years of age, she began working at a hospital conducted by the Sisters of the Holy Family of Nazareth at Wadowice. On February 15, 1917, she entered the congregation, and after completing her novitiate, she fulfilled simple and ordinary tasks in several convents. In 1934, she was assigned to Novogródek. During the war years of 1939 to 1943, she worked at the local hospital in Novogródek. Of the 12 sisters living there, she was the only one who was not arrested and killed by the Nazis on August 1, 1943. Sister Małgorzata later located the remains of the 11 martyred sisters. She was present at the exhumation of their remains on March 19, 1945, and witnessed their transferal to the gravesite near the parish church. She maintained contact with her religious authorities and the sisters in Grodno by mail. In 1965, she visited Poland for the first time since the war. Following a grave illness, Sister Małgorzata died April 26, 1966. She was originally buried in a local cemetery. However, upon the initiation of her beatification process, her remains were moved and are now entombed in the Fara. In the year 2000, in the name of the Church, His Holiness Pope John Paul II elevated the 11 martyred sisters of Novogrudek to the honor of blessed. We recognize them as models of love and as defenders against the numerous dangers that are threatening the contemporary family. While Sister Małgorzata is not numbered among the 11 blessed martyrs, it was she who remained as the guardian of their grave, upholding the religious and moral spirit of the people of Novogrudek. The process for her beatification as the 12th sister from Novogrudek was begun on February 19, 2003. Sisters of the Holy Family of Nazareth, beloved sisters of Novogrudek, pray for us and for all the families of the world.